Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Be a Stand-Up Leader. I'm here today with Jared Whitman of Whitman Media. Jared is a professional videographer. I'm grateful for him being part of my team here today because this video wouldn't be possible without him. Thank you, Jared.
It's my pleasure.
So this whole opportunity and video series began when Jared and I were collaborating. We were sharing ideas, and Jared was looking for a video project that he could develop over a course of time. And he asked me about my book, and I said, well, it would be interesting to do a video series on each of the chapters in the book. So today we're starting with the first chapter, which is accountability.
Yeah.
Jared and I were talking a little bit about that before we started rolling the tape today. And Jared, you've had some experiences with accountability, haven't you?
Yeah.
Good or bad?
Both.
Well, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, accountability, how I like to manage my people is giving them permission to making the process better. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just one person. So I'm going to help people. I'm going to hold them accountable to being the best that they can be, or as much as they want to be.
Right.
But in that process, in order for me to be held accountable, I want them to come to me with any issues that they may have. I want them to come to me with any ideas to make the process a little bit better. I give them permission to have that freedom to kind of hold me accountable as well.
It's a two-way street, isn't it?
It has to be a two-way street, because otherwise you're just getting into a mentality of micromanaging.
Right.
And I think micromanaging is the wrong way to manage someone.
Right. Yeah, I remember there were a couple instances in my career where I was coaching a business owner on the subject of culture.
That's
how to establish a positive, growth-oriented, customer-focused culture in a business. And one of the things that he was unable to comply with is feedback from his employees and staff towards him on the things that he needed to do differently. They wanted to hold him accountable, but it didn't work for him.
Yeah.
He was going to tell you what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you had to go take care of those marching orders. And it wasn't a two-way street.
Right.
It was a one-way street, and it didn't go well in the long run because people didn't respect the owner.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the cool things about your book and what we're trying to do on this podcast, Be a Stand-Up Leader, is that that was kind of weird. It's about people supporting other people in a positive manner and just propping people up, because when your people succeed, or the people that you're working with succeed, then you're a success. And you have this ripple effect of people helping people become the best versions that they can be.
Right.
And it just creates this positive,
it's a cool thing,
momentum.
Yeah, you're right.
That just continues to spread. But it starts with the top. It starts with being a stand-up leader. And I think accountability is a key standpoint in that, because you have to hold your people accountable to what their position requires.
Right.
That's their position in the company. That's what they're there to do, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you want them to hold you accountable to holding them accountable. So it's like
it's a partnership.
Yeah, a partnership, or a infinite movement of accountability, and it's all in the not the confines, but it's under that umbrella of when we're accountable to each other,
right,
doing the things that we need to be accountable to,
right,
the company is going to succeed long term. And that's just, I think there's so much opportunity for business owners and employees to leverage that accountability aspect,
right,
in making a better company and a better experience,
right,
for either employees or customers.
Right.
But it takes time to
right,
build that process, build that procedure, build that, the culture. Well, we were talking a little bit about culture before, but it takes time to build up and have a system in place that that allows that accountability to kind of be a habit.
Right.
And once it's a habit, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I had the good fortune of being the president of Madison Area Business Consultants for 3 years during the pandemic in 2020, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
And I loved the opportunity to keep the organization flourishing because I believed in the organization. I believed in the purpose, which is to help educate each other, be a learning opportunity. And one of the things that I made a big deal about was lifting each other up.
Yes.
That's what you were talking about.
Yes.
And people would come to me and they're like, hey, where are we going in the future? I said, we're going to continue to lift each other up.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm going to lift you up by helping you get to where you need to be. You're going to help the organization up by participating. And we're going to bring in the best speakers. And they're going to educate everybody. And everybody's going to rise.
Yeah.
And they just loved it. And I still love it because that's how simple it can be.
Yes, when you look at when you make a perspective shift and you look at the wide angle, it's just people
People helping people.
Yeah.
And brings us back to our subject in our chapter today, accountability. One of the reasons why I put this in the book, and it happens to be the first chapter, is because I think it can be an extremely powerful and life-changing tool for people who embrace it.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as this. I learned about accountability from David Allen. He wrote a book called Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And what I learned from one of my bosses was how to do a weekly review and weekly preview.
Can you talk a little bit further about that?
It seems simple, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Weekly review,
Yeah.
weekly preview. Well, it's really this easy. The professional writes down at the end of every day what they accomplished that day. Who did you talk to? What did you talk about? And what's the next step with that person, business, account, client, prospect, or whatever? You do that on Monday, you do that on Tuesday, you do that on Wednesday, you do that on Thursday, you do it on Friday. At the end of every day, you compile your little review, and then at the end of the week, you take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you zip them together by day, and you get a weekly review. This is all the activity that I did. These are the people that I talked to. This is what we talked about, and these are the next steps for everybody I talked to.
Yep.
What an exciting history of success. Wow, it's like, look at where I've been. Look at how much I accomplished.
Yeah.
Well, as a business owner, that information becomes golden when it comes down to coaching. Okay, so that's the first half of it, the weekly review. The weekly preview is written on Friday from all the experiences that you had the week before, and it sets the agenda for next week. Here's what I'm going to do on Monday. Here's what I'm going to do on Tuesday. Here's what I'm going to do on Wednesday. Here's what I'm going to do on Thursday. Here's what I'm going to do on Friday. These are the activities, the people I'm going to see, the topics we're going to talk about. This is the activity that we need to bring forward next week. So as the business owner, you have a chance to look at that. The employee has to turn that in before they leave the office on Friday.
Yeah.
So now you have the weekly review and weekly preview, let's just say, for Jared Whitman. So I'm sitting in my office and I've got Jared's weekly review and preview in my hands. I can, at a glance, see exactly what he's accomplished, where he's been, what he's up to, what he's going to be doing next. What a great opportunity for coaching. What a great opportunity to give Jared the support, the feedback, and the coaching, and if necessary, training, whatever Jared needs to move those opportunities forward. I can see where I can impact Jared's life in a positive manner because I know what he's up to.
Yeah.
It's also a chance for me as the business owner or the business leader, stand-up leader,
Yeah.
to look ahead and see where's Jared going next week. I see he's got a pretty full schedule. Wow, I can help him with this account. I can help him with this situation. I know about that. I'm going to sit down with Jared. I'm going to make his week look great because I'm going to give him a lot of support and coaching for what you're going to do next week. So Jared's a superstar. He's out there making stuff happen, and he's got great activity. I would consider him to be in the top 20%. The problem comes is if you've got an employee, not a problem, it's an opportunity, that's not filling out a weekly review.
Right.
They're not bringing the activity forward. They're having difficulty creating a history of success.
Yep.
And they also don't have a lot on their docket for next week. Their schedule's kind of open. They don't have enough activity. So here we go again. As a stand-up leader, here's your chance to come in and help the other person figure out how to get more activity going, how to be in more plays with more prospects, clients, partners, business associates, professionals, whatever they're doing, and then how to help them get a plan put together for the next week.
Information and communication. That's where it's at right there.
Right. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, two-way street. What steps do you think leaders can take to help hold people that 80% that aren't probably filling in the weekly review?
Right.
One, I guess let's start at the beginning. Where could this process be implemented to start, and then what steps can business owners take to make sure that employee or a customer, whatever, not customer, follows the process?
It's a great question. The way I like to approach it is to sit down with the employee and have a conversation with that person about what our expectations are in terms of weekly activity, and taking notes about that activity.
Yeah.
Here's what I did. Here's who I talked to. Here's what we talked about. Here's what the next step is. Here's what I think the opportunity is. So you can have a conversation with that and explain that to somebody. And these are the things we're looking for activity-wise. And then the other thing is to go with them and help them develop that activity program by actually rolling up your sleeves and going and doing it with them.
Right.
Not many managers, not many stand-up leaders are willing to walk the walk that matches the talk.
There's a quote out there. I don't know who it's from, but it's if you tell me, I don't know. It's like something that you see it and you kind of forget about it. You do it and maybe it's there,
Right.
but when someone shows you how it's done,
Right.
then you're able to retain that information a little bit better.
The other thing that I always had a problem with was a boss who would give marching orders and tell you to go ahead and go out and do all this work, and then they go back to their office. So you have to kind of figure it out on your own. It doesn't hurt to have a little mentoring.
Yes.
So maybe it could be the boss. Maybe it's one of the top producers who you can pair up with, and it's like, hey, Jared, would you take John out and show him how you do it?
Yeah.
And walk him through your process for the weekly review and weekly preview, and show him how to create a history of success.
Yeah.
And so, these things don't come easily. They don't come naturally. It's not an automatic. You have to work at it.
Repetition is definitely key.
It becomes an everyday thing.
Correct. Yeah. I think especially if you're onboarding this part, maybe it's part of your onboarding process to tell people, this is the expectation. But I think that if you say it just once, the chances are they're going to forget about it. So I think I believe people need to hear something 7 times before they retain it. So that's the amount of work that goes into making sure that a new person understands what the expectations are. And then I feel that as someone who's managed people, that repetition, if you keep on saying something and they're not picking it up, it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah.
But keeping that seven times in your mind, okay, well, how can I say it differently that they might understand it a little bit
Right.
better, or
Right.
what questions can I ask
Right.
that will get them to think about it differently,
Yeah.
or what questions that I'm not asking that I should be asking that
Right.
they don't understand it. So it's just putting in the time, not just going back to your office and doing your managerial work, but you have to put in the time to make sure that you're setting up this employee for success.
Right.
Because when you do a review and preview, then you're making your job a lot easier as a manager, because
Right.
you're seeing,
Getting the information.
yeah, you're getting the information of what they did and what they have coming up.
Right.
And then you can ask questions like, what are you struggling with
Right.
here?
Where do you need help?
Yeah, how can I help you get to the next step? How can I help elevate you to the next
Right.
level?
Right.
How can I help
I'm
you
going to
be
lift you up.
a better person? Yeah, how can
Yeah.
I be a stand-up leader to,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we also refer to it as what good looks like. Because in a high performance company, what good looks like is a high level of productivity, a high level of efficiency, high levels of communication,
Yeah.
a positive two-way culture. You can communicate with the owner and they communicate with you and neither party's offended.
Right, yeah.
You know, you can say what you want to say and not have to have fear of getting fired, because what you need to tell the boss isn't exactly what the boss wants to hear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and that's a tough situation.
It's a situation that I've been in, and it's incredibly difficult. And to reflect back on it, it was it's a two-way street, and that's it goes back to accountability. It's, you know, holding your people accountable, but then allowing your people to hold you accountable.
Right.
Because if you've been in the business for 40 years or 20 years or 10 years, 5 years, whatever, you're kind of like, you're in the muck. So you're seeing it from a certain perspective. And when you bring an employee in, they're coming in with fresh eyes.
Right.
They're coming in with a different perspective. And if you are a little vulnerable with them and give them permission again to, you know, share things that need to be shared, or talk to you how, you know, what they're seeing from their end.
Right.
I think that again just is a ladder climb to the top of just being better.
Yeah.
Overall.
So the weekly review and preview is a great tool as a performance evaluation. I always explain to people that it's the easiest way for you to create a history of success.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the easiest way for you to identify where you need help.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes it easy for the manager to come in and do some coaching and do some training. So really the opportunity is to close the gap on a lack of consistent information flow
Yeah.
between the employee and the stand-up leader.
I would even add in, from an employee standpoint, it would be beneficial to have this history over the last year of all the accomplishments that you've done as an employee. So when it comes to your yearly review, you know, you have a history, you have all this data of like, hey, this is what I did.
Look at what I accomplished.
Yeah. And then you have a track record of all these things that you accomplished, which was, I think that's really cool from an employee standpoint of, you know, these are all my successes, you know, and then celebrate the successes.
Right.
And then, oh, here's all my failures, and then learn from those
How
failures.
do we overcome some of those?
Yeah.
What can we do to get better?
Yeah.
And then ultimately it creates a little bit more joy at work because your work is appreciated. You're being accountable. Your leaders appreciate that. You're getting the right coaching where you need it. And there's good communications. You hit the nail on the head. It's really about communications.
Yeah.
And really having a good relationship between the boss and the employee.
I think along with that is being able to have those difficult conversations like right away.
Right.
Like if something
If they're not pulling their weight.
Yeah, if they're not pulling their weight, if, you know, they're not following the process procedures, if they're not holding up their end of the bargain as far as what expectations are, you need to have
Right.
a solid communication.
This tool makes that possible.
Yes. Yes, and I think this is an amazing tool, and I wish some of my previous W-2 jobs.
It's not common to
No.
see this type of communications.
Right.
And I always look for the opportunity to partner with a business owner who's willing to take a risk and actually help their team find a way to communicate better on their successes and their failures and where they need to be and where they need to go in order to be more successful.
I would add to that whenever implementing something new or trying something out, there's always a time frame. I was trying to think of a weird word. I don't know why I'm describing it now. Anyway, there's this time of, okay, we're gonna try something, we're doing it, we're coming up with failures, or I dropped the ball in a couple places. Don't beat yourself up about dropping the ball, because that's gonna happen. But as long as you continue to start from now and try to continue to be consistent and disciplined in making sure that this communication or these weekly reviews and the previews and you're holding yourself accountable or you're holding your team accountable, as long as you keep trying to do it correctly, eventually it'll just become a habit and then you don't have to think about it. But if you're not used to this process, if you're not used to this culture shift,
Yeah.
you give yourself permission to understand that you're going to fail and be okay with that failure.
Right.
But then recognize the opportunity to learn within that failure,
Right.
move on, and
Make some changes.
Yeah, and continue to try to strive to be a stand-up leader.
Yeah, I think it really helps people overall become more successful.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Can you imagine a world where leaders are propping their people up and they're always happy and the business itself is happy and the customers are
Is
happy?
it a fantasy or what?
I
Dreamland?
don't know. Maybe. I mean, all this stuff looks good on paper, but it's really good in practice. Everything in your book is fantastic. 90% of the stuff in your book is fantastic. But I think that it takes a lot of work to be a stand-up leader, and it takes a lot of consistent work
Right.
to make sure that you are a stand-up leader.
Right.
And at some point you're going to fail, and that's okay.
The weekly review and preview process is difficult at the beginning
Yeah.
because everything's exposed.
Right.
There's nowhere to hide.
Right.
So you might as well bring your A game.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it challenges you to be the best person that you can be
Yeah.
because it's on paper.
Yep.
And you're going to have to talk it over with your boss at the end of the week. And there's no hiding behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets easy once you start to see the results come from creating a history of success and allowing your boss and those people around you that you work with to help you achieve your goals because they can see where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
That's the preview.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm going next week. Well, let me help you get there.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else to add, Jared?
I don't. Do you have anything else?
No, I think we've covered it pretty good.
Yeah.
Accountability can be done. David Allen, Stress-Free Productivity, Getting Things Done is a great read. I'd highly recommend it. And I'd highly recommend you focus in on the parts about how to set up a weekly review and preview process with your employees or with your boss, however you want to look at it, and watch and see how good things get as you begin to create this history of success and journey forward with support all along the way.
I'm also going to add that you check out John's book, Be a Stand-Up Leader. Lots of stuff. I'm a shameless plug here, but lots of really good stuff in here. I read it within a week. It's an easy read, very consumable, but it's a good bunch of information that is a really good reminder of what it takes to be a stand-up leader. So definitely check out this book. and
Thanks, Jared.
and leave
I appreciate
a review
it.
as well. Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
See ya.